What's up, everybody, and welcome back. It's been quite a bit. Feels longer than it really has been. I think it's only been about a month and a half, but season 41 started throughout that time. Yeah, excuse me. Throughout that time that we've been away. But nonetheless, welcome back. How are you in general, and how are you enjoying season 41 so far?
I'm good. It's the end of summer, and
Yep.
41, we are 5 episodes deep at this point, and I'm liking it. I really do like the new threats that have come into the game. Like they're compared to seasons like Spies, Lies, and Allies or Battle for a New Champion. I find these new threats very palatable. It does feel like this season is a little bit half-baked in some regards. And specifically where I'm talking about is like there are details that like just aren't there. Like I don't actually know what the elimination arena is called. Everyone's just calling it the arena, but there's like no name. And I don't even know how much money they're playing for. It kind of like it seems like they're waiting to see if the Burger King sponsorship comes through. So like I don't know these kind of key details, but beyond that, I actually enjoy the new cast members because they're not there just to be there. They're actually playing the game for the most part. And
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd ever have to say this, but they actually like speak the language. Not that you have to be like a native English speaker or anything, but there are people that just like did not understand what was going on the show in seasons like 38 and 39. And at least everyone here knows what's happening.
Yeah, you would think, on a television show that primarily airs in the United States, that would be a pretty important thing to be able to kind of speak that language. But, I have been hearing some pretty good things about the season. I'm guilty, folks. I actually am a little bit behind right now, so you have to bear with me. But I have been hearing some good things. I've been hearing some people even threw around that they had some vibes, at least from what I saw for the first like 2 or 3 episodes, that it reminded certain people of like the War of the Worlds 1 type of vibes a little bit. Which, if that's any fraction or close to the level of that season, then I would say that's a win in their book, because that's probably the measuring stick for me now in terms of like what I could consider like a definitively really good season. Like in the modern era, I think that in the modern era, it's probably that, in terms of like, if we're ever going to get like a really definitive good season where most of the fandom is happy, that's probably the closest aim point for what we're going to try to strive for. Because I think that in terms of when they're introducing newer people and very heavily leaning into like the international themes and such, we're basically strayed far away from the days of like vendettas or like a Dirty 30 atmosphere. Like Dirty 30 is pretty much like kind of like the last real world type feel of the show. And then vendettas obviously started dipping more towards like what we're seeing today. But I would say War of the Worlds 1's probably like your measuring stick for the show, in terms of like if you're gonna like aim and lean in the direction that they've been leaning, that's probably the aim point. So I am excited to check it out, because that's gonna probably lend itself to a future video idea that we'll probably talk about, which is talking about the veterans that we would have put on this season. Yeah,
I do know that. I'm not quite sure how deep into the season you've actually made it so far, but your boy Rogan is back, and I will say it seems like he has a little crush in the house, and without
I did see that. I did see that on social media.
I think this might be the one. I think that they might actually make it, Rogan and Izzy. I think that they're in it for the long haul.
Well, I did actually listen to when he was on Banana's podcast like a week or two ago. And I actually like that listen, but so apparently he tried saying that he went on to the seat like he wasn't actually in a relationship when he went on this season. I don't. I mean, take that with a pinch of salt if you may, but
I think that's a lie, and I hope that's a lie.
oh, so do I.
I like the story of him going on to the season and just bamboozling his girlfriend, as cruel as it sounds. I mean, I'm watching a reality show. I'm not watching like couples therapy here. Like, if he wants to go in and implode his relationship to make some TV, I'll watch it.
Do you think that if Rogan were to continue to do seasons and like let's just say like provides like moderate to good television, like they're eventually in like a year or two from now, we could be having the argument of him potentially being the best UK cast member to cross over onto the show?
Maybe. It's kind of hard to say with him because he does have a win, but he's like, again, without spoiling too much, he's kind of like on two different poles. He'll either go like, Vendetta.
Go to the final.
Yeah. He was out super early, or he'll make it to the final. Like, there's really not a whole lot of middle ground with Rogan. Whereas someone like Kyle, he can get all the way to the end, but if he's not finishing the drill and getting first place, what good is he?
Yeah. Well, Kyle, I mean, had really good entertainment value through his first, like, and if you're into the confessional thing, like, he's always kind of been a really good confessionalist, no matter whether he was early on, involved in girl drama or later on, kind of on the more tame side, but would still give you a good confessional.
His confessionals on Double Agents are like the best part of the series.
Oh yeah.
Like he's actually funny, like making fun of Fetty reading his note.
Yeah, I honestly, I mean, I would say Double Agents, you could make the argument for Kyle that from an entertainment value, you could probably make the argument that's like right neck and neck with probably Final Reckoning, I would say. Like Vendettas, he like was funny, but for the most part was just involved in the Cara Maria stuff and then kind of floated to the end. Whereas Final Reckoning, we saw more conflict from him, and obviously War of the Worlds is one as well. But you could actually make that argument that people don't really talk about it, but Double Agents from an entertainment value for Kyle is right up there with his like Paulie and Cara stuff that he was going with on season 32 and 33.
Yeah, it's just like Double Agents is really when you start to see the challenge get softened in terms of drama and things like that. So as much effort as he wanted to put in, I don't think we're going to like see the full fruits of that labor because all the good stuff was left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, like we didn't see a Lolo Jones and Teresa fight. That wasn't shown, I believe. So I think I remember hearing or seeing. But yeah, nevertheless, folks, that's why today we're here to talk about a season where mostly everything was shown, which was the norm during this time period, and that is Rivals 2. So if you followed us like a year ago, one of our more popular videos that we did since we started doing these was we recasted Rivals 3 and kind of like fixed that cast up a little bit because we felt that it was weak in a lot of areas. And, people really liked that idea. And so we kind of went in reverse with this. We've talked about Rivals 2 before. I know we've done like an overrated and underrated video as far as seasons. And I think, if I remember correctly, didn't you say that Rivals 2 was one season that you found a little overrated?
A little is an understatement. I think it's probably overrated.
Okay. Well, why do you feel that way again?
Well, first of all, you watch the season and it just has like this shit Instagram filter over the whole thing. Like it looks like they were trying to make it look more high tech than it actually was. Like a lot of the challenges, and maybe it's just like the build of the season, I find them kind of hard to follow. Like particularly the one where they have to navigate through the maze with the bamboo tied to them.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I find them like very difficult as a viewer to watch what's happening and see the progression. And the competition is just so lacking. Like especially from the women's side, you knew who was going to make the final from day one. Like it's a miracle that anyone else even won like a daily challenge rather than Emily and Paula.
Yeah.
So it completely relied on some of the bigger names being on the cast. And to be fair, they did deliver in terms of drama and hookups and things of that nature. But the competition was what was lacking for me.
Yeah, I can understand why you feel that way. For me, yeah, the lighting of the season is. I mean, obviously, there's been seasons that were shot like further back, like like in the earlier 2000s. So like those are a little bit more like the camera, quality isn't going to be as good as it is like 13 years later. If something like Battle of the Seasons 2002, like.
Yeah. Like even if you watch the duel on Paramount, it's in standard definition. It's a square,
Yeah.
or I think it's 4:3. I'm not really sure the dimensions, but it looks dated, but it looks like a product of the time.
Right.
Rivals 2, I don't know what they were doing. I think they forgot to film in high definition, and they tried to like redo it in post production.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best look. So it's got that working against it. But for me, I've always found it to be a comfort watch. And when I say comfort watch, I don't necessarily mean like that I think it's objectively like one of the better seasons per se. I definitely do feel like if you're somebody that mainly watches for the drama and the personalities, it actually is a really good season. Like there's just a lot of goofy moments, from like just random, whether it be Diem writing a rap about Nani, Knight and Jemmy have a catch-up fight. There's just a lot of side quests going on this. Zach threw a tantrum on this, season as well. There's like a lot of comedy, whether it be intentional or unintentional, like mainly unintentional. Like just a lot of conflicts that, like, from a third-person point of view, like if you were there, you would find really funny. So if you're somebody that just mainly cares about the personality, this is a really good watch. If you're somebody that values, how good or bad a rival pairing is based on like their real beef, you probably might not like it, and you might like Rivals 1 better.
Yeah, I feel like after Battle of the Seasons, Rivals 2 is a little bit more comforting for someone who's like a big fan of the Era 2 challenges. Like, because it brings back the CTs, the West, even though he was on Battle of the Seasons, whatever. Bananas, Paula, a bunch of those people, DM, that you kind of became familiar with. But in all transparency, I'm old. I started watching with Battle of the Sexes 1. That's not my comfort era. I'm Era 1 through and through. So, like, I want Tina. I want Coral. I want The Miz. That would be a comfort for me. So maybe I just don't have that same emotional connection as you.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I know. I understand. Like you said, some of those challenges, maybe not the easiest to follow. The one with the bamboo, like you said, not my favorite one. There was also like a dog shocking collar that they did that was kind of similar to the bamboo, like where they're mazing through something.
Like the Triple X game, so they just edited one segment out because it was either, I don't know, it was too provocative or something. So like you can't even tell the progression during the first stage because it doesn't match the final stage.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty much the whole premise of this is, because this is one of the things, too, where, we really started to talk about the validity of the Rivals pairings. When the original Rivals happened, I think many thought it was a slam dunk across the board for the most part. But then once Rivals 2 came around, this is kind of like the thing that set the wheels in motion to discussing, like, oh, what's really a rival? pairing, because one of the teams was literally based off of something said on Twitter. And there's just a lot of stretch pairings here. So basically, if you followed what we did with the Rivals 3 formula, we're kind of going to do the same thing here where, if we like a team, we're just going to leave them the same. If there's something we would have changed, we'll do the exact same thing and remove said person or said team and swap them out for someone or some team better that we feel like would have made the season make more sense and also maybe add to something. But before we get to revealing our teams, I want to just kind of get some perspective from you as somebody who kind of lived through this timeline of being a challenge fan. Where were we as a fandom at this time in terms of like where was the franchise, and kind of walk me through what spoiler season was also like during this time.
So I think as a franchise, a lot of people really were not a fan of what they were doing with Battle of the Seasons because it was too much new blood. So I think that this almost feels like The Duel or War of the Worlds 2 in the sense that they're marrying like a whole new wave of challengers, which, with The Duel, they just had fresh meat, with kind of the veterans who have been established. So it's kind of like you just got introduced to a bunch of new people. Some of them are going to stick. Some of them are going to fall to the wayside. We miss you, Mackenzie. I don't know what happened. But JD, yeah.
Finalist.
And haven't seen him since. But I think that a lot of people, to your point, kind of felt like this was a bit of a return to form. Spoiler season was really hard at the beginning because no one knew it was Rivals 2. We saw the casting on paper. We're like, this isn't not Rivals. We don't we see two connections, but they made it work somehow. Made it work, and I think that people were ultimately excited by the cast just based on the names alone. The people who were there. I do remember it was a big push to get DM. I think that you can tell she had just gone through chemotherapy. I think she was actually, and I'm not an expert in this by any means, but actually on the tail end of chemotherapy and actively taking the course of it during filming. I could be mistaken here, but
that sounds about right because I think she was taking. People said that she was taking some medication on the season, so some of her how she was reacting to certain stuff, her sensitivity level was heightened. That's why at the reunion we see so many people kind of telling the host to lay off a little bit because he's confronting her about how she was acting about certain things on the season.
Yeah, and the other thing we have to remember is even if the chemo was done, again, not an expert here, so don't quote me on anything, but I do know that it takes a toll on your body, and clearly she had recently gone through it. So she's in this game with her partner Anissa, of all people. Being a physical beast in the challenges just isn't in her cards this season. And she had to play a somewhat sneaky and political game to advance, and that should be expected. So yeah, we're going to see her do some things that are not necessarily typical DM character because that's what she had to do to survive. And if you're going to have a competitor that's not physically 100%, you want to see them still be a force in the game, whether that be politically, socially, whatever. And she was. She made it to almost the end.
Yeah. I thought this was one of, if you're looking for, to show somebody what's a season where DM is really involved in the gameplay and just the central focus of drama, let's just say. I thought this was a pretty good DM season in terms of what was happening. Obviously, like you said, with the cast, I feel like in a vacuum, separating the validity of certain rivals pairings and whether or not they were legit. If you just look solely at the names on the cast, it's actually like a pretty good cast, like a really good cast, I would say. Actually, if we just solely look at the personalities at that time and what they were providing, it's a really good cast. Like truly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of rumors, obviously, like you said, swirling at the time, and people trying to figure out like what the theme was. Wasn't that, I could have sworn because I saw like on an old Vevmo spoiler speculation during for Rivals 2. Was Danny Jameson at one point like rumored to have been on this? Do you remember?
Maybe I don't think he was. I will tell you. I mean, Danny Jameson is notoriously offline, and he is also one of the people that like it can be kind of hard to pin down if he's actually on a cast. Like I know the Gauntlet 3, or no, maybe it was Fresh Meat 2. Like he was one of the later people figured out.
Yeah.
Like him and Alton have always been like two people that are more difficult to like get a read on.
Yeah.
And it's really like process of elimination whether or not they're on the cast. I'm sure he was asked, but I don't think he was actually in contention for being on the cast.
Yeah. Well, I know Tyree and Dunbar was a tough one to figure out, I know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing kind of like Cara Maria came in. Originally, I think, from what I understand, she was the alternate with Aya for the women, but they only needed one. Right. I would guess Tyree's inclusion, he probably was an alternate with another partner. Dustin dropped. They did some shifty movement, and Tyree got pulled in.
Yeah, and we're about to, discuss that, in a moment. So I guess we'll just kick it off here right from the top. I guess we'll start with the guys, because, I think him and I both agree that the guys, it's a lot easier to sort through and figure out. At least that's what I discovered when I was doing this. The girls, on the other hand, it's a very good girl cast from, like, a drama perspective, but, competition-wise, it's very clear that there's one front runner that was always kind of destined to win. And so, when casting the girls, it was a little more difficult. We had a few DQs, so that kind of tried to use hindsight a little bit, but like not really, because it was a little bit more difficult. But like in certain cases, the DQs actually like worked out better because there were people that I could have just plucked right in as like a replacement partner that actually made sense for me. So there was that. And, some of the, there were some potential people that I would have put on the cast, but, like, it would have meant dropping some girl that I wanted on, so I kind of just left them the same. You know what I mean? Like, I had, thought about, I'll just get through my guys first before I talk about the girls. So, for the guys, I actually left the same. CT and Wes, I kept that. They won the season. There was validity to that Rivals pairing, as we saw throughout the years. I kept Zach and Trey the same. They won the first two daily challenges. At this point in time, in terms of Zach's Rivals, he was clearly somebody they had big plans for on the show, so they would have wanted him on. And at this point, Trey was like seen as like somebody, he had the romance with Laura on his Real World season, and Battle of the Seasons, he was like kind of on the mess, like not super messy, but like was not willing to play ball politically, like. So he was probably seen at this point as like a good casting choice. And from some of the videos that I actually watched during because you remember AfterBuzz TV, right?
Mhm.
There was like a bunch of like challenge, like after show interviews on that channel from like 2012 that I dug up, and like, like they're doing like these radio calls with like, do you remember that girl from Big Brother, Danielle Victor, Danny Victor?
Wait,
She like
from Big Brother or from
Bad Girls Club, Bad Girls
Oh, I
Club.
sure do. I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
her.
yeah. Well, she at this time, like recently, like had kind of been involved with Zach or whatever, and like
Yeah.
Zach Nichols, yeah.
Oh, that yeah, she was involved with someone else too.
Oh yeah, yeah, obviously, but no, she was like involved with Zach Nichols or something around this time period, and like for whatever reason, they did like a joint like podcast or like call in thing, like almost like a radio call in with like Trey and her, and like they were basically like double like shitting on Zach pretty much. Like, and Trey was like Trey was saying stuff like, "Oh, Zach like said if he ever saw me on the street, he would like kill me or so." So like they were saying a bunch of like he was saying a bunch of shit about him, and then there was another one I found where it's like Zach and John A, because they were together at the time. This was like right after Battle of the Seasons, or right during Battle of the Seasons, and then Zach was saying like a bunch of stuff about Trey, like, "Oh yeah, he's the scum of the earth" or something like that. So there was definitely like something there, which is it's a nice rabbit hole to like dive down. I will say that, like, it really is.
This. I miss when like people would just go on TV and the radio and just say shit about people they don't know.
Listen, the challenge interview game is not the same as it used to be, folks. Like, we have glimmers here and there. You might see things come out with cast members that are off the grid, but it wasn't micromanaged the same way it is now. Like, people would just go and do the challenge, and then like they would be allowed to like willy-nilly just do any random radio show and just say a bunch of just fucking just a bunch of shit pretty much, like. And yeah, it was that's my favorite thing, is just finding all these interviews from like 2012, which is another thing too, actually, when we talked about this cast and like Battle of the Seasons. I found like Derek's old podcast, and there was like a Battle of the Seasons recap that like him, Kenny, and Mark Long were doing, and then pretty much Mark and Kenny were saying like how like the cast was a joke on like Battle of the Seasons, and like they really fucking but anyways,
the Seasons, like that win for San Diego was very much viewed the same way like Emmanuel's win is viewed after Battle for New Champion.
Mm-hmm.
You were the best of the worst.
Yeah, pretty much. But I would leave Zach and Trey the same. I left Jordan and Marlon the same. Good rookie team. They provided on this season for sure. I actually did leave Derek and Rob the same. They did technically have that funny fight on Battle. I mean, they were cool by this point, but like that fight where Rob ripped his shirt off on Battle of the Seasons was really funny for me. So I just felt like I would leave them. And then I left Preston and Knight the same, although I did toy around with the prospect of somebody else being Preston's partner, but I decided to just keep Knight there because Knight ended up providing pretty good television on this season. So that's what I would leave the same. And so when it comes to my new pairs, a lot of these, actually all of these, are people that are on this season, but like I either dropped their partner or added somebody different. And so for the most glaring one here, these were two people that were on this cast in real life, just partnered with different people. Johnny Bananas and Dunbar I have as a pairing. So, for anybody who's kind of been in the grapevine, this was pretty much more than likely supposed to be the pairing in real life had our other dominoes that I'm about to talk about fallen in the right place. And we've even had like Dunbar himself saying like a recent interview a couple months ago that at the airport, him and Johnny were talking like, oh yeah, so we're gonna be partnered up, you know, pretty much like not accounting for the fact that like Tyree was gonna be Dunbar's partner. Like they were pretty much prepared. Like you even see, like I was rewatching it, like when TJ's announcing the pairs and like you know the numbers are starting to dwindle down of who's been called. Like Bananas and Dunbar are literally like looking in each other's direction, like expecting like they're gonna be partnered up or whatever. So yeah, I went with Bananas and Dunbar. As for like how they would have done, I mean, despite making the final, this is like what a lot of people view as like one of Johnny's like worst performances. Like he didn't kind of like come into this season in the best, you know, physical.
I mean,
condition.
if you look at Johnny, he looks a lot better now, even with all the filler in his face, than he did on Rivals 2. Like he was in rough shape.
Yeah.
So to his credit, he got into a lot better shape for future seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And watching it back, you can totally see Frank was a much better competitor than Johnny.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, that one season off on Battle of the Seasons must have taken a toll on him.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, he did win the 2 prior seasons, so he probably took like a much longer extended vacation with the prize money, and probably was doing appearance tours throughout that entire time that he wasn't on Battle of the Seasons.
He won 2 challenges and went home before taxes with $125,000. That's nice, but I don't know how much time that's going to buy you to just run around willy-nilly. Like the prize money has definitely gone up over the years.
Yeah, but he was probably doing like the appearance. Well, he's definitely doing the appearance, like bar appearancing stuff at the time still. So while he wasn't on filming this Battle of the Seasons, he was probably just out, you know, doing what people used to do back in the day, like basically a rock star lifestyle. So yeah. So since Bananas is now with Dunbar, how do you think they would have fared as a team? Do you think that would have been like, I don't know, it's too like obviously like competitively speaking, if it's like the worst version of Johnny and like whatever Dunbar, like I mean we know Dunbar wouldn't have thrown it. Like he said in the podcast, like he went in prepared, like, oh, if Johnny's my partner, I would have tried. So
I think that they would have done well, but I think it would have kind of changed a big alliance in the house, because I think that we would have seen a bigger divide between the rookies and the veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Because Frank, who I'm assuming you're going to put on the cast elsewhere, is now going to target Johnny. Not only is he just not working with Johnny, but Frank came into this season ready to like their whole rivalry, Frank and Johnny, is based off of tweets where Frank is like, I'm gonna fuck you up in the house. Like I'm gonna send you packing, old man. And it's almost a shame that production didn't let that happen.
They took that from us.
Yeah. Like that's what the rivalry, quote unquote, was based on. So I think that Dunbar and Johnny would have done well, but Frank would have been opposing them, and Frank, like I said, was in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a shame because it would have added to the overall quality of the gameplay in the season. So with that in mind, Frank is, you know, obviously still on this cast, but his new partner, which should have been his rightful partner, as many agree in real life, is Dustin. You know, so if anybody hadn't prior known what happened on the previous season, had arguably one of the top 3 or 5 funniest fights in challenge history. Like seriously, you know, if you haven't seen it yet, please go and look it up. Dustin and Frank from Battle of the Seasons, one of my favorite fights ever on the challenge. Like. And I really do feel like if they were a pair, they would have actually been a force to be reckoned with. Seriously, I think you know, Dustin had gotten second place the prior season with only Trishelle as his partner, when every other team in that final had all 4 people. This is like what should have been, you know, the rightful pairing in real life. I'll get into it when we get to our girls, but for the alleged thing was Dustin had to like drop out of the cast because his girlfriend at the time, Heather from his real world, didn't want him going with Cook there. Because they had like a kind of a storyline on their real world season, them three, that involved Dustin. So yeah, and side note too, I would have totally ran this pair back on All Stars 5 in real time. Like make corrections to what we didn't do in 2013 and like have it happen in 2025. Like that would have been really good.
I think in 2025, Dustin and Frank would get along swimmingly.
I mean, they might have won the season, to be completely honest.
Probably.
And then for my last team that I changed, and this is a bit more of a dark horse wild card. This pair in real life was Leroy and Ty, which I guess at the time, like, seemed like a pretty good pairing, like, going into it, like, based on what we had gotten from, well, like, drama-wise. Like,
I guess there was no basis for that rivalry, really.
No. In terms of their actual rivalry, let me preface. Not a good pairing in terms of the rival. That's the number one thing. It's right next to Dunbar and Tyree. This is like the second most like far-fetched rivalry that we got. Like this shit doesn't make any sense whatsoever. From a drama perspective, going into it, based on what we got from Ty on his prior appearances, you're probably thinking like, oh, okay, like this could be a little bit of a dramatic team potentially. I don't know. The rumor, and I guess I saw this someplace, like on I don't know if it was casting close calls or Venmo or whatever. There was like a rumor because like he was getting calls at the time and like accepting them, but it wasn't getting used. That at one point it was Leroy and Tyler Duckworth.
Yeah, that rumor comes from Tyler's mouth.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, he was
on Challenge Mania, but yeah, he said it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, no. They had like a little, like, I guess like confrontation on Rivals 1.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been the justification, which I guess is still technically more than Leroy and Ty had, I suppose. Leroy and Ty were literally hanging out in Las Vegas, like, right before the show, apparently. So, like, they literally had no problems with each other. Like, it was just their whole basis of the rivalry was off, like, the Adam R fight on Rivals 1. So, yeah, I would have went with Leroy and Tyler Duckworth. I mean, I don't know how much different anything would have been, but he would have gotten at least a much better partner, Leroy would have, because at this time period, Tyler Duckworth he'd been coming off 2 straight wins and was in his like physical peak and prime.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like from a drama perspective, what this changes, but we would have at least gotten something because Ty didn't give us anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would change. And then I have for like some honorable mentions here. Just to kind of run through really quickly, I considered putting Ryan Leslie as Preston's partner instead of Ryan Knight, but I kept Knight just because I feel like the boat had been missed at this point with Ryan Leslie. Like it had been too far removed a little bit from their real world, because I actually had Preston on my podcast a few years ago. He said they were dropped from Rivals 1, like the first Rivals. Ryan Leslie and Preston were supposed to be paired up on the first Rivals, and Preston said they dropped. I don't know. And then 2 other ones, which were like, this is just me kind of messing around. Like these were actual like they have on camera like problems, but like this is like whatever, like not make or break a season. Danny Jameson and Brandon Nelson, because of that whole fight with the potatoes on Fresh Meat.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so, like, whatever, like, and then this other one is, like, blink and you miss it type of rivalry. I have 2 underrated competitors paired up together, Chet and CJ. on Battle of the Seasons had like a brief little thing where like Chet was calling like CJ a phony or whatever. He's like, I see through you. You're just like a Malibu Ken, phony, pretentious, whatever. Not the biggest rivalry in the world, and obviously, like, I don't think they would have been like lighting the world on fire in terms of their on-screen presence, but like, just two underrated competitors that I just put together as honorable mentions. But yeah, that's pretty much my guys. So the floor is yours if you would like to dive into yours.
So for my guys, I kept CT and Wes. I think that those are that's like the flagship rivalry for this season.
Yeah.
Like Wes and Kenny were probably like the tent pole, the one that you knew from Rivals 1. They tried to do it with CT and Wes here.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept Jordan and Marlon because who else are you going to pair him? Like, what other pair are you going to make? So for Frank, or the two that I have that you also said, Bananas and Dunbar.
Yeah.
And Leroy and Tyler, because I'm very aware of the rumor you referenced. If Leroy's going to be on the cast, that's like the only thing I can really think of that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for the other 4 teams, I have Frank and Zach. Mostly because I knew you were going to say Frank and Dustin. So
yeah.
I know that they were kind of friends after Battle of the Seasons, but I think that relationship was paper thin. And you see it coming apart a little bit on Rivals 2 from what we actually see.
Yeah.
But also, I think that they would be like a very formidable team, and they would have like a real shot at making smart moves that could eliminate CT or Bananas.
Right.
I kept Knight on the cast. I paired him with Ryan Leslie. My new name in there. I mean, they did have a real rivalry from their Real World season involving a pill. So that's like a real plot line that happened. So there's definitely a basis for it.
Mm-hmm.
So for Dustin, I did want him on the cast. So I put him with Mike from the Real World.
Oh, yeah, that's a deep cut. That's a good one.
It's a deep cut and probably would never really happen. And I don't know if they would do well, but there's definitely beef there.
Oh, yeah.
And for my final team, because I make the rules on this cast, it's Ty, because why would you ever cut him? And Adam Royer.
Okay, that's a good one too, actually.
I would have loved to see Adam Royer get like a full shake at the show. I would guess if he came back, he would get disqualified again. But
I would love to know if he actually failed his psych evaluation, which was the rumor of Exodus 1.
From what I understand, they probably told him that.
Just because they just didn't want to deal with the liability of...
I think what really happened, from what I've heard, is at that point in time, it was after the Real World season had aired, and I'm trying to place like the Real World season airing and the filming of Rivals 1, but his antics, especially like watching the show back, really harmed the Real World's relationship with the Hard Rock in Vegas. And I think that's what like drew a big divide between MTV and Adam. That's the rumor mill. It's certainly not confirmed, but the Real World suite was a big thing in Vegas for a while.
Yeah. Well, I honestly, the only way we would truly find this out is, one, if Adam came forward himself and said something, or if, honestly, I wouldn't doubt that Nani might know the answer to this question, because if they were actually thinking about casting them to, I mean, I don't know what their speaking terms were like at the time, but you'd have to imagine word gets out or travels.
Well, when X's One was casting, there's a tweet from Adam Royer to Nani Gonzalez where Adam just said, does at Nani Gonzalez sad face. And everyone knew they were talking about the casting.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I guess...
So, based on what emoji, we know that they were talking.
Okay. Well, that would have been cool, though. I mean, I definitely like the diversity on your cast, because you have, like, you have a ton of people that aren't. There's diversity because you've got guys like Ryan Leslie, Adam, and Mike who aren't like known as like these huge physical threats, but I feel like it would make for really good television at least. Yeah.
My goal is to fix kind of like what I perceive to be the biggest problem of the season, and that is make the rivalries make sense and then make it somewhat competitive.
Yeah. We would have with your cast, we would have like a kind of fine balance of like, we've got like 4 teams that are like, you'll get some pretty good competition from, which is like Wes and CT, Bananas and Dunbar, Frank and Zach, and Leroy and Tyler. And then you've got like basically like, well, I mean, Knight and Ryan Leslie aren't going to win, but like,
Knight and Preston, no one thought would make it as far as they did.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, like I would love to be a fly on the wall in a house with Adam R. and Ryan Leslie both in the same house. Like that just like screams to me like they're either gonna get into a fist fight on the first day or like they're gonna be best friends. There's no in between.
Yeah, who knows?
But yeah, we can get into the girls now, which a little bit more dicey on my end. So in terms of like what I'm keeping, I'm gonna keep Emily and Paula just because like, is it the biggest rivalry in the world? No, but like who else would they be with? You know what I mean? Like they're at that time, like I'm trying to really think of who else. Paula's got her history on the show, but I don't know. It wasn't.
I will say on my cast, I only kept one female team that we actually saw, and it's not Paula and Emily.
Okay.
They're both on the cast.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe my light bulb just wasn't registering, but
No, it's like a deep cut that doesn't really.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I got Emily and Paula. I kept Teresa and Jasmine just because I really do like the mirror punch. Just kept them, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this is a fun fact of knowledge. This is like very minuscule and this means nothing, but everybody on this cast had either been on Battle of the X's or Battle of the Seasons prior to going on this. Like, not everybody was on Succession, like, one after the other, but everybody on this cast had been on either one or the other. So, like, if they weren't on Battle of the Seasons, they were on X's and vice versa, besides Teresa. Mm-hmm. She's the only one that was, like, on an extended,
Extended 2 seasons off.
Yeah, extended. We hadn't seen her since the Rivals one. So, I got her and Jasmine I kept. This is one that got really tricky for me because I kept Nani and John A, which again, really not a rivalry pairing at all. This was very stretched. But for me, you could have potentially gone Nani and Cook, but I had somebody who I felt was a lot more juicy for Cook. John A, I toyed with the idea of putting her with Sarah because of Rivals 1, where Sarah knew she was going into elimination against Jasmine and said, like, oh, like she was cocky about the elimination, said, like, I
can beat you at some stuff.
Yeah, like, I considered that, but, like, I didn't do it. And then I obviously kept Jemmy and Camilla. Again, I had, I'll just tell you one of my, like, I guess, I was really, really close to putting Tori Hall on this cast with Camilla. Very close. Very close. But I ultimately did not because I felt like Jemmy had, like, a lot of contributing moments on the season, like, as a narrator, and just, like, she was involved in some stuff. So I didn't want to, like, lose her because I didn't know off the top of my head who I would pair her with.
Yeah.
So there was that. And then I have an asterisk next to this because I'm gonna get to it in a moment, like what I do. I kept Sarah and Trishelle, but like I put an asterisk next to Trishelle's name because she's gonna leave, obviously, but I'm gonna be replacing her with Cara Maria as the alternate because on Cutthroat, Sarah was very much so a part of like the crew of people that thought Cara was like a weakling or whatever. So I got Cara Maria is going to be coming in instead of replacing Naomi like she did with Cook. She's going to be getting Sarah, which is interesting because we look at her and Sarah as like two of the best female competitors ever. Don't know what they're like at that time, but definitely something like to consider. And then I did keep DM and Anissa just because I felt like Anissa really contributed to this cast and the show and the season as a whole, like very big integral part. And she herself doesn't have many rivals up to this point, so that was kind of my thing. As for the replacements, Cara comes in for Trishelle as her replacement, but in my fantasy changing, I dropped Naomi from the cast, and Heather Martyr is Cook's partner. So I would really like that team. Like, really like. I really think they would be actually very good. And then I dropped Jess and Anastasia, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And the real team that everybody wanted on this season was Avery and Naya.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those little tweaks would have made my cast a whole lot better. So, yep.
So, is that did you run through your list?
Yeah. Oh, and one last point. I considered Aya and Cara like just coming in as a team, but then I was like, it probably makes more sense since Naomi's not leaving.
Mm-hmm.
In this scenario, she just wouldn't have been on the cast, period. Cara would have been coming in as a replacement anyway, so I thought it made more sense to just do that. But yeah, I really wanted Aya on this. I just didn't do it. So yeah.
So the one team that we actually saw that I kept was Anissa and DM, mostly because I knew Anissa, they really wanted her. I'm sorry, DM, they really wanted her on the cast. And I just can't see another direction that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I toyed with Brittany from Hollywood or...
Okay. Siobhan.
But I didn't even think of that, but that actually...
Yeah.
Work, but no, it was always going to be Anissa and DM, and it is what it is. Teams that you mentioned that I kept, or that I have on my list, are Naya and Avery, obviously.
Yeah.
That's what everyone wanted after Portland. And I have Cook and Heather because that's the real, Naomi and Heather had beef because
of Heather.
Yeah. So why cut out the girl in the middle and just make Heather and Heather a team? And also, just from the jump, I have Sarah and Cara Maria. Mostly because I'm trying to make teams that are actually competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sarah and Cara Maria are actually competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So the other teams I have, speaking of actually competitive people, this one is a champion, Sam and Marie.
Okay.
After their big fight on Battle of the Seasons. But I do think that after Battle of the Seasons, Marie was someone that she was kind of like a standout rookie. She was one of kind of a lot, but she was a standout rookie from that season. I kept Paula and put her with Laurel because they have a very big feud.
Oh yeah, I didn't even consider that. Wow. Yeah.
And that makes a really strong team who I would have going against Emily and Camilla, who I put together because Camilla worked with Emily to do some very naughty and insensitive parrying of Ty.
Mm-hmm.
We'll leave it at the most PG without going into the backstory of it, but everyone knows what it is. On Battle of the Exes. So she kind of got Emily involved in this scandal. So, that is something that probably is a point of contention, but also, who else is Emily going to be with?
Right.
And then I kind of struggled with the last team because there's a lot of people that are kind of getting cut out of this cast that I recognize as being names that they really wanted from Battle of the Season. So I haven't said like Jemmy yet, Nani yet, John A yet. I settled on Teresa and John A based on that whole fight, the same one from and that results in Jasmine punching the mirror. I don't think that Teresa and John A have as much beef, but I think on paper they are a more competitive team. And that's what I was going for. Right.
Yeah, you definitely did, I feel like, nail that cast in terms of from a competitive perspective. You definitely, we would have gotten a much more competitive girl side in real life had this been the cast.
I mean, I really think it would have come down to Paula and Laurel, Emily and Camilla, and Cara Maria and Sarah, with maybe the dark horse team being Naya and Avery.
Well, I mean, Cook and Heather, too, you really have to consider.
Yeah.
Like,
I just can't.
One thing, I mean, honest, this might be a hot take. Well, I don't even know. This probably isn't that hot of a take, but I actually think, I'm going to say it anyway. I think that on your casts, well, I mean, I guess this would go for my cast, too, because I have the same exact teams. I really would not be surprised if Cook and Heather finish above Cara Maria and Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, Heather Marta, I think I'm saying
she was a soccer player herself.
Okay,
actually.
I don't know anything about her athletic background. I know like she licked some honey off of Dustin's Speedo on Battle of the Exes 1, and that's about like all we saw from her. She went home because Dustin split his knee open, and she never even went into elimination. So like we don't have a whole lot of data points to go off of with her, but she's really a wild card coming into the game. So I perceive her as being smaller in stature.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose that could be a weakness, but then we also have like Camilla, who's a smaller girl but does well in the game.
She seemed like she was in pretty good shape or whatever. Like there's some smaller girls that like they're smaller in stature, but like all they do is drink or whatever. Like she actually seemed like she was just like somebody who was just in pretty good shape actually. And like I remember when I was looking at like Venmo, I keep saying Venmo, it's Vevmo, but no, don't get any bright ideas, people. I'm not Venmoing anybody. When I was looking at the old Vevmo. Spoiler, like when they did it for the real world, where we were seeing like, oh, this person's or the challenge or the real world, like spoilers of like a newer cast member. Let's just say like they did this for Fresh Meat a couple times, where like they would say like, oh, this is the name of this person from Fresh Meat, and they would go to like wherever their social media pages and find a picture of them, and people would speculate like, oh, I think they're gonna be this person of this season. Like, there was actually photos that somebody posted of Heather Martyr playing soccer. Like, she was a college soccer player. Not to the level that Cook was, but, like, lower level soccer. Like, so she was still a competitive person. So, two soccer players. I really do feel like they would have actually been a formidable team.
Yeah. So, I would hope that would be, like, a really fun cast to watch. Play the silly games that they gave us.
Listen, I really wanted Aia on this cast. It was just very hard where the dominoes fell. I would have, but if it's any consolation prize, I would have put Aia on Free Agents the following season instead of Emily Fitzpatrick. So,
yeah. And in my rivals too, you did not ask for this, but I'm just going to say it. One of the biggest problems with the season is that there's like a guy's day and a girl's day, and like if the girls aren't going into the elimination because it's a guy's elimination, it's like useless. They were playing for like $500 and no one gave a shit.
Yeah.
I would love if we implemented kind of like the relic for More of the Worlds. If you're the winning girls team on a guy's elimination day, you hold the relic, meaning you cannot be voted into the next elimination.
Mm-hmm.
But you can still come in last and go directly to elimination.
Yeah.
That's how it would. I think it's just a simple addition, not too big, that would actually make the game competitive.
I completely agree.
Because
yeah.
Like I remember they were talking I think it was like Trey or Zach that was doing an interview. This is a decade ago. And they were talking about the XXX games, and they were like, yeah, Zach wanted to buy an iPad, so we tried, but otherwise everyone was just playing in the sand because there was no reason for the guys to win.
Yeah, then CT like at night started running the course with each other, even though they weren't partners.
Because Wes did not want to compete,
and Preston too.
Nor did Preston, but I mean they weren't going to win anyways, so like no hard loss. But like CT and Wes could have won, and Wes didn't want to do it. No one calls him out for that because there was no reason for him to compete. He says that there's no reason. He was right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, honestly, this would have been a really, Tori Hall and Camilla was one that I really toyed with as well.
I actually toyed with that because I'm like, who else could Camilla be with that was actually, a decent team? And Tori Hall, to her credit, always does well on the challenges. She cries her way to the end, but she gets to the end.
Yeah, I just didn't know how realistic it was either at the time period. Like, well, actually,
I think she was, Sorry, keep
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think she probably had recently given birth to one of her kids with Brad, and she was very anti-challenge. She was like trying to like start their career. The lore is they went on Cutthroat, and she's like, I want Brad to win. I'm not here to win. Brad's going to win, so he can quit this once and for all.
Yeah, because she was just so like done with it.
I don't know. Well, you're trying to start a family. I do understand it. You're trying to start a family, and you're leaving for months on end. You want to have a stable job. You want to, there's a perspective that she could very realistically have had that makes perfect sense. And I'm not going to shit on her, but also I want to watch a TV show, so yeah, come on in.
Well, wasn't there like rumors that Brad was almost going on Free Agents at the time?
I don't recall. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't recall.
Yeah. I could have sworn I saw that, and then there was some rumor that around that time period that like Brad thought the show was taking like a Bad Girls Club more centric approach.
What I understand, that is Tori's language.
Tori's? Okay.
Yeah. From what I understand. Also, remember, you just talked about an interview with Danny Victor, who's from the Bad Girls Club. So, like, who would blame her for having that thought?
Yeah, because, like, from pretty much the time they exited the show, from, like, Rivals 1 through take your pick. Pretty much from Rivals 1 through, like, maybe, like, Dirty 30 was not Bad Girls Club per se, but like...
Well, Battle of the Seasons, we had just come off of a season where like people were shoving each other into plants and ripping their shirt off and turning into the Hulk, and no one got kicked off. It was just good old fun.
Yeah. Okay, I could definitely see their point of view then, Battle of the Seasons. Like, that actually, you do actually kind of get some bad... Yeah.
And then, Naya and Avery had just happened, which, truthfully, I think that they would have kicked at least one of them off, but they were always going to have to do the promo shoot, which is at the end of the filming. So they had to have them come back the next day anyways. That's why no one truly went home, because they were filming or they were shooting the promo photos.
Yeah.
And they only had a couple days left of production.
I actually did I used like a soundbite of Avery, or not Avery, Naya when I interviewed her. I used a soundbite of that for my junior year of college. I had to do it was it was a radio class, and I needed I forget the exact basis of the project, but pretty much I had to come up with some topic, and so I had to give my own intro, and then I had to interview people for stuff. Truth be told, I already had the footage, and I didn't really feel like finding new people to interview for whatever topics. It was the material was right in front of me, so I was just like, okay, I literally have hours of footage. I might as well just do something instead of coming up with some topic and having to interview random people, whatever about it. So I did the project on I guess it was the cause and effect of appearing on reality TV or something like that. And so it was kind of the positives and the negatives. And so I used pretty much Naya talking about how after she did that whole thing with Avery on The Real World, how pretty much employers were turning side-eyed to her and whatever, and that it was coming up. And then I think I used the positive one was you remember Mike Manning from Real World DC? How he pretty much became an actor after that, and pretty much phased Real World out of his life, kind of. I used soundbite of him or something like that. So
some people played their cards right, and it was a launching pad for their career, and some people played their cards right, and it was a launching pad for them to do 27 seasons. And both of them have money in it.
Naya said people thought I don't know what they would have seen that would have thought this, but she said one time somebody thought it was a porno background yeah, I don't know, but
well, maybe it's when she was trying to seduce Jordan.
Yeah, that could have been something.
Good times,
great times, people. But and speaking of times, until next time, we'll see you guys. Thank you for joining us today.
See you later.